One of the most common questions that we get asked is in the range hood business is how to cut down a chimney. And this happens in a lot of different cases. You have an odd height ceiling, you have an arch ceiling, or you have a steepled ceiling. So the demonstration that we're going to give you today is how to cut down a chimney, and the way that we do it's very quick, it's easy, it's something you can do. You can buy everything you need at Home Depot. Now the first thing I've got here is a square. This is an island chimney, and you can see that the island chimney telescopes. So we're going to pretend like we need to cut this down. Now the first thing you want to do is decide where to make your cuts. That's important. And you want to be careful which edge you cut, because in a typical telescoping chimney section you will have two pieces of chimney, and the upper piece will slide inside the lower piece. Now in this island application, the only two edges that will show eventually to your guests and to you every day will be this piece, which goes at the top up against your ceiling, and this piece right here. So we want to try and stay away from cutting those edges. So the edge that I want to try and cut off is this edge. Makes sense. So the first thing we're going to do, and I'm going to cheat a little bit, this is what we do here. Now we charge $50 to do this, but it is something that you can do, and we do have a lot of times where customers are in a bind, they're in a hurry. It's one of the reasons we decided to shoot this video. So what we do, the first thing I do is I decide what length I need to do it. So let's just say that we need to do this at 12 inches. Now the two things that you're going to need to do this are going to be a cutoff blade. Well, three things, ideally. You're going to need a Norton cutoff blade. This is from Home Depot. It's about $2.50. You'll only need one of them. Don't buy two or three. It's about a little less than 1/8 of an inch thick. Now the nice thing about this blade, it's made of a carbon. It wears down, so it'll gradually get smaller as you use it. It's very thin, so it generates very little heat, and that's important when you're cutting stainless steel. You want to generate as little heat as possible. Now you're going to use that on a 4.5 inch grinder. These are available from Home Depot, $40 or $50 if you don't have one. So then the last thing that you're going to need to remove the burrs, once you've made the cut, we use an 80 grit flap wheel. It's $7 or $8 from Home Depot or Lowe's. It's another Norton product, and works very good to remove the burrs once you've made the cut. Now you're also going to need a set of safety glasses. Highly recommend safety glasses. So let's move on. Now once we've determined our height here, we've decided that we need to cut this down because we need some room, either to do the installation, we need to be able to access the connections, the electrical, so we need to cut this down. We've decided that the height needs to be 12 inches. We need to cut 12 inches so that we have a total length here of 12 inches. So I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use this as my gauge. Now you can measure every corner and use a ruler and use a marker to draw a line between them. We measure out the 12 inches, and I'm almost right on. So what I'll do is measure each corner. Now the reason I do this is you don't want to wind up on the fourth corner and have them not match up. So measure each corner, and then what I'm going to do is use the lower section of the chimney hood as my gauge to draw my line. Then once I'm done with that, I'm going to separate them, and I am going to put a piece of blue tape on there so that I have a permanent gauge. So now once I've done this, I have my lines lined up. Now this is a machine edge on, let me turn this so that you can see it. This is a machine edge all the way around, and I know they match up. So I've got my 12-inch mark. So what I'm going to do is turn it. I'll mark these sides, and then I'm going to rotate it once, and I'll mark this side. So there. I've got my marking. I know exactly where my cut needs to be. Now to keep me on target, because sometimes when you wipe out the line, it's easy to wander, we will put some blue tape on the good side of the chimney that I need. So what I'll do is I go all the way around with the blue tape, and this is just to mark it. Now while I'm doing that, let me tell you about the blue on the range hood is the protective coating that they put on the stainless from the factory to protect it while it's in production, shipping, handling, and you'll eventually remove that. We'll leave it on for this demonstration. We usually leave it on for the cut. It doesn't interfere with the cut, and it helps distribute the heat from the blade, any heat that you might have. Okay, now to prepare to make the cut, we've made our mark, we've got our tape, we know which side our tape is on the side of the chimney that we want to keep. One of the things that helps us is we'll clamp a piece of wood. It can be plywood, 2x4, whatever. We'll clamp a piece of wood that hangs out so that we can put the chimney on there so that it reduces the vibration. You can see that this isn't very stable. So the piece of wood that we'll clamp to will help us stabilize it. So we'll slide it over the piece of wood. Now this 2x4 is clamped to our bench, and then I will take another clamp really quick, and I'll clamp the piece, the chimney, to the piece of wood. Now notice that I'm attaching the clamp on my waist side. This is the waist side of the chimney. That's the side that I'm not going to need. So now the direction that the blade is going to turn is marked by the arrow here. It's going to turn this way, so that means I want to cut from the front to the back. So I'm cutting into it. So now we're going to put on our safety glasses. We'll start cutting. Now the other thing that I wanted to mention is that let's say your ceiling is a slope ceiling or a pitch ceiling. Let's say that you've got a cathedral type ceiling. In that case, that can only be done on the job site. So what we'll do is a lot of times we'll set the lower piece and we will make a template from cardboard of the upper piece, and then we'll transfer that template and we'll use the same method that we're using here. So let's continue. We'll cut the other three sides. So now when we're done, we have our two pieces. We have the piece that we need, we have our waist piece. If you've got this much waist, maybe take a few test cuts to just make sure that you're level and straight. If you want to, if not, this isn't that critical. It's a hidden cut anyway. But what you'll find is that because we cut it the way that we did using the direction of the blade, all of our burrs are on the inside. And these are pretty nasty. Now, when you're working inside your range hood, you don't want to, making the connections for the ductwork, the electrical, you don't want to get cut by these, so we're going to remove those. Now you can remove them a couple of ways. We use another Norton product. It's an 80 grit flap wheel. Goes on the same grinder. This is what they look like. Really fast and easy. They're a little bit more money, I think $7 or $8, but well worth it in our environment. If you don't have something like that, you can use a file, you can use a fingernail file, you can use sandpaper. Just about anything to get rid of that, because it's really not, you could even use a piece of a metal, but we'll show you how to get rid of that really quick. So now that we've removed the burrs on our cut from the inside, we've got a nice smooth edge. Now one thing that I neglected to mention is speed. You saw how fast I made the cuts and how fast I did the burr removal. You don't want to grind on stainless steel. Stainless steel is very susceptible to heat, so you want to keep the heat down as much as possible. Now again, this cut is not that important because we chose where we were going to cut. We chose to cut a cut that will eventually be hidden. But if you generated too much heat, you could glue the stainless steel up into the visible part. And now you can see here we have a great fit. We've got a chimney that's cut exactly to the height that we need it. Now, one of the last things you'll want to do, as you test fit this, you want to make sure that you leave the blue protective film on, so that, because this hood will scratch this hood as they move up and down. In fact, you can see from packaging there's some marks here, and you want to make sure that you don't have those types of scratches. So you'll wait until final installation to remove the blue plastic, and then that way you've got a protected finish, protected stainless steel finish. And you can see from both ends that we have our cut end and we have our factory finished end. Both of them, our cut end is every bit as good as a factory finished end. So that's how you do it. You've got a custom cut chimney, and you've done it on site, and you've saved money, and you've done a great job.